In this topic, we're going to have a look at negative numbers and how to do basic arithmetic with them, adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing. First question we need to say is, what does a negative number look like? Well, if we look at this number line at the bottom, we can see some numbers are positive from here to the right, and then some numbers are negative. And the reason we know they're negative is because they've got a negative sign in front of them. Now, the number line was invented by John Wallis, who wanted to give direction to numbers. He realized that there were numbers that had the same magnitude, in other words, distances away from zero, and yet they could vary in direction. So, for example, in here, the number 4 is actually a size or a magnitude. We call it this. And what that means is that I can go 4 places this way, right up to here, and go 4 places this way, and I've gone exactly the same number of spaces. So the size of 4 is the same. However, the negative gives an idea of direction. So if it's a negative number, it's moving towards the left, according to John Wallis, and we still use this today. And if it's positive, we're moving towards the right. Good question is, do negative numbers always have to say they go from left to right? Well, the answer to that is, take a look at this. There's a thermometer, and you'll notice that here the numbers are going from negative at the bottom and they're moving to the positive at the top. But as far as practice is concerned, we use the idea mainly of a number line where the negative numbers are on the left-hand side of 0 and the positive numbers are on the right-hand side of 0. And we go from the left towards the right. So what are the main features of a number line? Well, first of all, it's a straight line. So the idea would be to make sure that you use a ruler to draw it. Secondly, it's got a 0 that separates the left from the right. You'll notice on the left-hand side, the numbers are negative. And on the right-hand side, they're positive. You'll also notice that they're evenly spaced. And one other thing you'll notice is that they've got arrows at either end of the line. Now, John Wallis made sure there were arrows to indicate that the numbers can be moved to the right, an infinite number. This is the symbol that he used. So you could go 4, 5, 6 and just keep going. Or, as with the positives, the negatives go to the left, and you would go to infinity as well, but that would be towards the negative side. Now, the interesting thing is that sometimes numbers look the same. Let's look at -2 and 2, and we can see some things that are similar and some things that are different. Well, first of all, they've got that basic part. So I guess in that sense, the magnitude is the same. The magnitude is probably best understood as the distance away from 0. So that's 1 step, 2 step for the positive, and 1 step, 2 step in the other direction for the negative. So there's a similarity in that they are the same distance away from 0. The big difference, of course, is that this one has got a negative sign, and so we place it on this side of the number line, and because this hasn't got a negative sign, it automatically has a positive sign whether we write it or not, and therefore it's placed on this side of the number line. But the important thing to remember is, as far as their distance away from 0 is concerned, it's exactly the same, just in different directions. So then we're left with these symbols here, and what do they mean? Well, traditionally we've said that 1 is less than 5, or we could say that 5 is greater than 1. So this would be a less than sign, and this would be a greater than sign. But, you know, in some ways that's a little bit confusing, because if I said, let's look at -2 and 2, now, is -2 actually smaller than 2? Well, we've already said that it's got the same magnitude. In other words, the distance from 0 is exactly the same. It's just that that one goes off to the left and this one goes off to the right. So what sign will we use and why? Well, we will use this sign here, and I guess we will say that -2 is less than 2. The main thing to remember really is that if the arrow is pointing to a number, we would say that that number is further to the left than the other number on the number line. So -2 is further to the left. Here's 2 and -2 is here, and we would say -2 is further to the left than 2. So if you remember that, that's probably the best way to do it, although it will still be, we'll still use the words less than or greater than. So if we look at -2 here, it's further to the left than 3, so we would use that sign, and -1 is further to the left than 4, so we would use that sign. But if we said, let's say 3 and let's say -2, we would say that -2 is further to the left than 3. So we would reverse the sign, and I guess the sign is pointing to the one that's furthest to the left. We could say that 3 is greater than -2 in that sense, that it's further, the 3 is further to the right on the number line.